Chapter 1162, back after a very abrupt break week following Oda suddenly falling ill. I'm pretty sure chapters are submitted to the magazine a couple weeks before they're published, meaning this chapter might have been completed before Oda even got sick. But either way, it's been posted already that he is recovering, so the ship is steadying again, although there is another break week after this chapter, one of the usually scheduled ones. But after this latest scare, no one should really have an issue with the breaks anymore. Not that anyone should have had an issue beforehand, you know, it shouldn't take the author's declining health catching up to them for people to finally show a bit of sympathy, you know what I mean? But also we got some more promotional material for the second season of the live action Crocus looking like Crocus, with the newspaper and everything. The rage baiter is ready to rage bait, and also Laboon in all of his glory. This is a great poster, and this shot of him in the background, look at the lighthouse for comparison. He is huge. Maybe they didn't size him down that much after all, maybe it was just perspective. And we will be going inside of Laboon. An entire practical set has been built, or was built for it, but all in all it's looking very good. And back on track here, what a chapter this is to come back with. We broke through the ceiling long ago, we're reaching for the stars, that's how good this stuff is. Starting with the cover story for the last time until the next one, because this is the final page of Yamato and the Holy Inari Shrine pilgrimage, where we see she has now entered the flower capital, addressing Luffy with this as well, with Kinemon side-eyeing Ulti. I'm happy that someone is questioning why she is here, so that was massively anticlimactic. But in all fairness, I do only have myself to blame, because I put the idea in my head of Blackbeard showing up himself here, so I set myself up. But on that note, we did learn that Blackbeard has officially mastered the Quake fruit, after the designs of that and Marco's Phoenix fruit were revealed last week, meaning he could already be the strongest in the present story right now. But back to the cover story, apart from those expectations, I'm not really too bothered about how this cover story went as a whole. Would a giant revelation have been cool? Yes, obviously it would have, but I don't mind what we did get. Remember, we followed Pound chasing after his two daughters 2 cover stories ago, but it does interest me who the next cover story will follow, moving on with Elbaf. Of course, we're gonna get a few months of reader requests in between, but after that, because we're moving into the stretch of story where everything is gonna start coming together, all the side plots beginning to line up with the main plot, so the next cover story I don't think is going to be as relaxing as this one. And now this one has ended, what does Yamato do now? Many are very passionate about her still joining the crew. I'm not so passionate about it. If she does, I wouldn't mind it, and if not, I won't be too bothered about it. My one condition would be if Yamato joins the Straw Hats, it's Yamato joining the Straw Hats, not Oden. If she joins as herself, even though, like I said, I don't think she will, because another reason would be it's kind of too late in the story now, I think, and Luffy did already make her an honorary member of the crew back in Wano alongside Momo and Kinemon, so it isn't that important for me. The chapter opens with a little mini-map to show where some of the characters are. The Roger pirates on one side of the island coming to the center, Rocks and Garling on another side, with the prizes of the hunting competition and all of the treasure in the center. And then to the Roger pirates, where we see Rayleigh carrying Shaki to get her to safety while the rest of the crew go after the treasure. And this is really funny because we know this isn't what's going on here, but Shaki has kind of become a human shield for him, because Shiki, Golden Lion Shiki, steps in to stop other pirates from attacking him because he doesn't want Shaki to get hurt. And there's been all the jokes about Goon Valley and everything, but come on, that is funny. And they're still being lovey-dovey as they escape. Maybe Roger and Gabon were right last chapter. This is not the time, let's keep this behind closed doors please. And Newgate has told the other members of the Rocks pirates on the island to go after the treasures, so Shaki is no longer the common goal, the prizes are the new common goal that both the Roger and Rocks pirates are after. Then we move back to the moment where Big Mom got a hold of the Azure Dragon fruit. We see a summarized version of that scene again, and cut to Garp, who is shocked, more than just shocked. He is angry, massively pissed off, because he is seeing all of these bodies of civilians strewn across the island, and he had no idea that this hunt was happening. So back when Kong called him on holiday day and he called it the Celestial Dragons field trip, that is exactly what he thought it was. Of course, so many celestial dragons moving to an island like this would not go unnoticed, so they gave it a false name, a field trip, which is what they told the rest of the world. And this tracks because we even saw Garp questioning why Kong would send him to such a remote island for this, although Kong refused to tell him, so Kong did know. So in Garp's mind, what he was probably picturing was something along the lines of, for example, remember in the Ace Sabo Luffy flashback where celestial dragons visited the Goa Kingdom? Maybe it was something like that Garp was thinking of, just on a larger scale. And he ends up calling Sengoku to ask what on earth is going on. So Garp did not know about the native hunting competition, and I would say Sengoku didn't either, since it was his response to Garp where the only thing he could think of was that someone who questioned what was really going on vanished soon after. So it sounds to me at least that he's only putting the pieces together himself now as well. That random marine was right to be doubtful. At this point in time, yes, Garp has already started getting a reputation, making a name for himself, but he's not the hero yet. He doesn't have the same influence that he has in the present. He is just a vice admiral here, so I don't think it's too shocking that he wouldn't have been told about it beforehand, especially because you know for a fact the celestial dragons would have done their hardest to keep this stuff under wraps, or at least the elders would have done their hardest to keep it under wraps, because the average celestial dragon wouldn't give a shit. And that is proven by the fact that someone who raised their doubts about it or questioned it disappeared. And I also get the feeling that with someone like Garp, they would have tried extra hard to stop any information about this reaching his ears. So what's most important is what we see Garp choose to do after this. We know he stays with the Marines, but what are the details here? He stays because he believes his best chance of making a difference is from within that system, in the form of the next generation who he would nurture and grow himself. So he can guarantee from within that the establishment, the Navy, changes for the better. That's the path he chose. So I want this to lead to the reveal that Garp was the one who founded Sword after this incident. Xebec is able to find Eris and Teach. He is running with them on his back. Again, he's a terrible person, but a great father and family man nonetheless. And hot on his tail is Garling and another one of the knights, with Garling making the point that Xebec's attacks had slowed down and affected his regeneration or healing. So right now the consensus is that it's advanced Conqueror's Haki which can counter the healing, so I'm guessing the greater the Conqueror's output, the greater the effect it has on slowing down the regen. But there is now a catch to this confrontation, because it looks like Emu has thrown their hat into the ring and has dummy reversied all the other members of the Davy clan, turning them into demons and supporting Garling in this battle. And amongst them are Xebec's father and grandmother, and I was not expecting that. There's something weird about seeing the old generation's family. Like, we aren't ever going to see Garp's parents, you know, Luffy's great grandparents or Roger's parents, so it's kind of cool in that sense, but at the same time it's very sad that Xebec has to see this happen to his own father and grandmother, with his father being the giant member of the clan with the straw hat. And Eris speaks up with Xebec running to protect them. She jumps off and makes herself heard. She says that she is already a proud member of the Davy clan and how everybody accepted her despite her pirate past. So she was a pirate, but it also sounds like she only became a member of the Davy clan when her and Xebec got together, as if they accepted her as one of them. She also says she understands the fate of the clan. There's the word fate again, which Xebec himself uses a bit, so I'm assuming she's been told about their people's past, what happened to cause them to be hunted, whose side they are on, any secrets, essentially the baggage that comes along with being a member of the Davy clan. And she isn't a damsel in distress. She wants Xebec to trust her. She can protect their son, she can protect herself. That's the woman who he fell in love with. That is some very good characterization in this short amount of time. It is crazy though how she's already prepared to end her and Teach's life to avoid being captured and turned. She would rather them die than have them go against Xebec, or have Xebec suffer having them against him. And her last words to him, maybe ever, as well as this being most likely the last time Teach ever sees his father, are to meet back up in Lulusia. So I don't think we have heard about a place called Lulusia before, or maybe it was so forgetful that I forgot it existed in the first place. Okay, but in all seriousness, their rendezvous point being Lulusia makes a lot of sense. First, the obvious point is the fact that Emu chose that island to be destroyed to test the power of the Mother Flame, with their rationale being because it was nearby, but the real reason could be because they wanted to erase the last island that contained any traces of the Davy clan. Maybe they found out about Blackbeard being raised there and they didn't want to take any chances of there being any other surviving members of the clan on that island aside from Blackbeard, so they got rid of it as soon as they were given the opportunity. And this should also mean that Shadeport, the specific location where Teach grows up, is also on Lulusia, was on Lulusia as well. And as for the other point, revisiting Ace's cover story and his hunt for Blackbeard, we know that his hunt led him to Lulusia, and we now finally know why. Because Teach was raised there, so Ace back then must have come across some information linking Blackbeard to the island. During the Reverie arc also, Peachbeard tried to take over or raid the island in Blackbeard's name. I do think that one's just a coincidence, because looking back at that scene, it doesn't sound like Blackbeard sent him there specifically. It's just that the island was left unguarded because of the Reverie. But still, it was worth mentioning just in case. So from this point, xebec has now found his family and have went their separate ways again, so from his perspective they are safe for the time being. And for once he swings his sword to unleash a slash, not an impact, to cut through the island. Eris and Teach went that way, so no one else is getting past. It's like Rayleigh drawing a line in the dirt in Sub-Odi so the Straw Hats could get away, but on steroids, because this is much more than just dirt which xebec is cutting through. But back to his family being safe makes me think what it is that would have brought him into direct conflict with Roger and Garp. I thought before this chapter that it would be because he couldn't find his family, which would send him into a frenzy, but he did find them, so we know what happens after this, the rest of this chapter, and it's unbelievable what goes down. But after that, because the end of this chapter, that confrontation feels very final in itself, so I will circle back to this when we get to that at the end, because I like to keep things chronological. And you may have noticed in the past few chapters Kaido being very pushy, very forward about getting his own fruit, and to be fair to him, he was right to be so pushy with Big Mom, because it was never her intention to get one for him, because she wanted to give the fruit to Katakuri. We were already given the what if scenario had Ivankov eaten the devil fruit, but how would things have been different if Katakuri had eaten the dragon fruit instead? Would he have grown stronger than his own mother? This could be a retcon, because according to a Vivre card, Katakuri would have already had his fruit by this point, his Mochi Mochi fruit. He apparently got that when he was 5 and he would be 10 during the time of this incident. It's not that big of a deal though. Katakuri got his fruit a few years after we first thought. It doesn't make any difference to anything whether Katakuri had his Mochi abilities when he was 5 or 10, so that being changed isn't a problem, and it has been known that Vivre card information isn't that reliable. Back to this. Kaido ambushes Big Mom, takes her by surprise. He hits her square in the face with his Kanabo, knocks her to the ground, snatches the devil fruit and eats it immediately, with the most disgusting smile on his face as well. Genuinely, this might have been the happiest moment of Kaido's life, especially since we know he would go on to become a suicidal drunk. This is what he wanted. Call God Valley the island of dreams, the way people are getting what they wanted. Rayleigh saving Shaki, xebec finding his family, Kaido getting his fruit. What a great day. Remember after Kaido defeated the Scabbards and Big Mom made her way to the roof, she said that he was indebted to her for giving him his fruit. What a load of crap. Kaido does not owe her a single thing because she was never going to give it to him. But it makes sense why we saw her so pissed in Kaido's flashback back in Wano. It's because he took the fruit from her. Then we see a very nice parallel of Dragon and Eris carrying Shanks and Teach respectively, whose fates have been intertwined ever ever since this day. Two kids who went through this horror but ended up going down very different paths. And it's the Roger pirates who find the treasure first, and if volume 4 billion is anything to go by, they are able to hold on to it and take it back to their ship, leaving the Rocks pirates empty-handed it seems, but it makes sense since none of the strongest members are there. Shiki is acting as Shaki's and by extension Rayleigh's bodyguard. Kaido just took the fruit from Big Mom elsewhere, and based on the end of the chapter, we know Newgate should be currently making his way over to Xebec, so the Roger pirates are in control here. Like Gonzui, I'm afraid, is no match for Gabon. To be honest, I view Gonzui as being the equivalent of, say, a Toby Ropo member for the Rocks crew. Still strong, but nowhere near the strongest. And Garp's smile isn't gonna come back for the rest of this chapter now that he can see what's really going on. And as we see him questioning justice, we also see the Navy refusing to help the citizens due to God Valley being a non-affiliated nation, meaning there is no justice here. And in the background, Saturn has been communicating with Emu, who asks him if Xebec is dead, which of course not, far from it. But he does have the most interesting line of the chapter by saying he fears that something new is about to be born or unleashed here. So he could be talking about Xebec and the Rocks pirates if they were able to escape and allowed to grow in strength any further as we watch Kaido emerge from the trees in his newfound dragon form. It's going to be very bad news for Emu and the elders. Or maybe it has something to do with what Garling told them in that meeting, something other than the Davy clan which can be found on the island. Next is Kuma healing and teleporting people off of the island, a pure soul as always, so this is also after his confrontation with Saturn, who was thinking about their talk before. So we aren't going to see how Kuma got away, but I think it's safe to say it was similar to how Whitebeard unintentionally saved dragons. Someone came through and unintentionally saved Kuma by distracting Saturn, taking his attention away, allowing Kuma to run away. And all of a sudden, a huge burst of haki engulfs the island, which everyone feels. Garp, Roger, and Xebec, who was forced to cut down his family, the Demon Davy clan members, which has only angered him even more. But what's more is that Garling, who was chasing him before, is down, heavily injured, coughing up blood. This did not go down well for him. You might have thought that with these two characters, this might have been the first real big fight of the incident. Xebec versus Garling, the legend of the old generation versus the champion of God Valley, and this is once again, it's becoming too easy to predict now with this guy. Xebec isn't having any trouble with this scrub. Let's not forget, this is Xebec at his absolute strongest since this is the day he dies, this is his peak, and as much as Garling has been built up, I don't think he has been built up to be someone who can contend with this beast. You can literally count on one hand who those men are. Harold, Garp, Roger, Whitebeard I would say as well in his prime, and that is it really. And I guess also the guy he faces at the end of this chapter, the champion of God Valley. No, in truth, maybe Garling is strong today. In the present, he got stronger, then got a boost from Emu when he became an elder, but in truth, Garling is simply the Celestial Dragon's biggest piece of propaganda. And Emu is not done there, because on top of now literally demonizing the Davy clan, on top of already having metaphorically demonized them, they possess Saturn in his Gyuki form, meaning Emu is now on God Valley. But what's different with the possession here is that Emu's silhouette can be made out from the Gyuki form, so there's two options for this as well. Either this is a greater level of body possession from Emu since it looks like a part of their own body has appeared, so they can exert a higher level of power, or it's just the possession manifesting differently, because with Gunko they are taking over a human body, whereas here they are controlling the body of a creature, a yokai, instead. And to begin with, Xebec stands on his own ready to fight this thing, and let me say this now, the next interaction we get with the following characters I think is amazing. I love it. Newgate firstly quickly arrives to join his captain, and while Xebec tells him that he's got nothing to gain by being here, Newgate does not leave. He says he has to work off his drinking debt. Whitebeard will betray Xebec. We were all so stupid to think that, who are we talking about here? Edward Newgate, this man is the most honorable person to ever sail the seas. Of course he was going to stay and stand by, fight alongside his captain. I've been thinking about this for a while now, but I really do feel like from his point of view, Newgate it did feel like he had found some sort of family with the Rocks Pirates, a very dysfunctional family, but a family still, with a certain member of the crew being like a little brother to him. And speaking of that little brother, in he comes Kaido in his dragon form, flies in to join the other two, and I can't believe I'm saying this about Kaido, but this right here is adorable. He is over the moon. He can't contain his happiness that he's finally got a fruit. Even xebec says this is the happiest he's ever seen him, while basically giving him a pat on the back, like a father looking at their kid's horrible painting and saying well done. You see, this family dynamic is just so good. You know, this is the stuff an endgame level fight is about to go down, but there's still room for such good character interactions. So it needs to be said one more time, Kaido is not afraid of anyone. He will fight whoever is in front of him. He doesn't care. Plus, with it being Kaido and Whitebeard here, I'm gonna take that as soft confirmation of those two being the two strongest in their primes out of the Rocks Pirates, not including xebec himself. The future world's strongest man and world's strongest creature, the world's greatest taboo versus the king of the world. In all honesty, you could never make me hate Kaido. I know people fell off the Kaido train after his short flashback, but I never did. I've always loved his character, and this flashback has made him look even better in my eyes. But one more thing, I said how Kaido is like Whitebeard's little brother on the crew. Kaido's like everyone's little brother on the crew, but with Whitebeard here specifically, we know he went on to have another little brother who he cared for, which was Oden, and we know the history between Kaido and Oden. So seeing how close him and Kaido are here, it makes me want to know what was going through his mind when he found out about what happened between those two in Wano. If it came down to it, I would say he would have sided with Oden, because we know Whitebeard, he would not have liked the path that Kaido went down after the Rocks Pirates fell apart. And I see people are also questioning what were Kaido's true intentions when he was making his way to Marineford during the Paramount War, with some thinking that he was going there to help Whitebeard. I'm not sure, because we know how much his personality changed. It's also possible he was going there to fight Whitebeard himself, you know, so he could give Whitebeard an honorable death, maybe even hoping he himself would have a great death there. But in either case, it would mean he was going to Marineford out of respect for Whitebeard Newgate, his former friend, big brother. I feel like the last chance to see how that actually played out is with Shanks' own full backstory. We can put together he stopped Kaido for the sake of keeping the balance of the world, because yes, it was only Kaido with King who were traveling there, but that would have turned the war upside down. But the biggest question is still why he was going there. And back to the chapter now, Whitebeard is also happy for him having gotten his devil fruit here, but less so because he is more concerned about Imu's presence, this creature that's in front of them. And as for Roger and Garp's expressions here, comparing the two, this should be obvious, but this has nothing to do with their strength and all to do with their priorities. Shaki has been saved, so Roger doesn't have anything more to worry about on the island really, so he can welcome this new surprise as they go after the treasure. But on the other side, Garp's feeling this presence as he looks across a field of his slain comrades when Kong told him he wasn't expecting to find his fellow marines and civilians massacred. Their two perspectives of what's going on are entirely different. And returning to xebec to finish things off, he answers Newgate's question as Imu stares them down, responding by saying what they are currently facing is the world. He knows exactly who they are looking at. He said he would return to them, but they came to him. But that response from xebec is interesting, because what did Van Orga and Katarina Devon say their goal was to Saturn? The world. Could Blackbeard be aiming directly for Imu? And if so, that line of the world is even colder, because it means they said straight to Saturn's face, we are coming for your boss's head. And I have a prediction for this fight. Kaido here is all about devil fruits, but Kaido in Wano was all about haki. I think this fight may give him a bit of a reality check, where his newfound dragon abilities won't give him exactly the results he was hoping for. This will also be in part because of him just getting the fruit, but still he's built this up in his mind as the thing that will take him to the next level. Meanwhile, xebec, Garp, Roger are all there and all still stronger than him without fruit powers. And you can fast forward to Oden, who was probably the tipping point regarding adding his opinion on devil fruit and haki. I think his opinion started to change on that topic ironically as soon as he got the fruit. And moving to Saturn and Emu possessed Saturn, I think it's safe to say they still lose here. They are not beating these three, even with what I just said about Kaido supposedly struggling with his new abilities. I wouldn't be mad if Emu does win because it is Emu, but also this isn't Emu at full power. But with this, wouldn't that make the egghead incident Saturn's second major failure? It seems Saturn was put in charge of whatever Garling told them when he met with the elders, which is why Saturn and only Saturn is present on God Valley. Then everything fell apart. Okay, it's not entirely your fault that the biggest names on the seas all converged here. I won't purge you just yet. Fast forward to Egghead. Saturn is put in charge once again and fails again. Okay, now the circumstances do not matter anymore. You messed up big time twice. You are done, no more chances for you. So Emu takes Saturn's soul after Egghead because this wasn't the first major incident to occur under his watch. So Emu is here taking over Saturn's body. Xebec, Kaido and Newgate are all confronting him. Roger and Garp have both felt their presence on the island. I've said this before, this sounds like this could be the endgame fight of the incident, but circling back to what Sengoku said about both Garp and Roger fighting Xebec, are both Kaido and Newgate going to be out of action after this fight with Emu leaving Xebec on his own, or will they still be up to fight afterwards? I think the best bet for now is that Kaido and Newgate are knocked down, they're down for the count, and Emu has to resort to Domi reversing Xebec because they can't take him down like this. Either Sengoku was spouting propaganda or some wild stuff is gonna happen, or both. I'm gonna say both, but think about this: Xebec, Roger, Garp, Whitebeard, Kaido, now Emu. This incident has already more than lived up to the billing, and we aren't done yet.